Your lips have been dry for months. You drink the water, you apply the balm. And every morning, the same thing is waiting for you in the mirror. Before you blame the season or the air in your home, I want you to hear this. In people past 60, chronically dry lips are often the body's first warning about 7 conditions that affect the heart, the kidneys, the blood, and the immune system, sometimes for years before any test picks them up. One of these 7 will catch nearly 9 out of 10 people watching today completely off guard. And the one I have saved for last, the one sitting underneath all the others, is the condition I have watched quietly shorten more lives than almost anything else in 60 years of traditional healing practice. Stay with me. The most important thing I will share today builds through everything that comes before it. My name is Master Takeshi Okamura. For over 60 years, I have walked the path of traditional healing in the mountain village of Kurama, north of Kyoto. My grandfather trained me before I was old enough to carry his medicine bag. Among the first things he taught was this: the belly speaks first. All illness rises from the body's center before it reaches the surface. The lips, he would say, are the last stop on a long road inward. What modern researchers have confirmed in the last decade sharpened what my grandfather observed across a lifetime. After 60, the community of beneficial organisms living inside the gut drops by as much as 30 to 40%. Most older adults have no idea this is happening, and this decline does not stay quietly contained inside the gut. It weakens immune regulation. It disrupts how the body manages moisture. It disturbs blood sugar balance and feeds the slow inflammatory fire that ages the body from within. This is the hidden mechanism most physicians have not had 12 minutes to explain. It is the thread running through every sign we are about to discuss today. If you want to be strong enough to hold your grandchildren, to pour the first cup in the morning for the person beside you, to move through your days without that low, persistent heaviness, then what comes next matters more than it may appear. Stay with me. Sign 7. Vitamin B deficiency. When this is the cause, most people simply reach for the balm and move on. The body is asking for something entirely different. Riboflavin, what researchers call B2, feeds and maintains the moist lining of the lips from within. B12 keeps the nerve signals governing moisture distribution working cleanly. When both run low, imagine a house where the pipes have lost their pressure. Water still enters at the top, but almost none of it reaches the edges. The surface dries from the inside out. After 60, the stomach produces significantly less acid than it once did. Without enough acid, the body absorbs far less B2 and B12 from food. Common heartburn medications reduce absorption further, and the gut bacteria loss I just described matters here too. Beneficial organisms in the gut help synthesize B vitamins on the body's behalf. When their numbers fall by 40%, that contribution falls with them. My grandfather watched the corners of the lips with particular attention. When the corners begin to split, he would say, something inside is asking to be heard. Eggs, sardines, and dark leafy greens carry good amounts of both vitamins. Pair them with a small amount of healthy fat at the same meal. Fat helps the body use them more fully. And if you notice splitting at the lip corners alongside a pale tongue and afternoon fatigue arriving together, do not dismiss that cluster. Those 3 rarely appear at the same time by accident. Speak with your physician. But lip corner splitting is only one part of the picture. Sign 6 reveals something hiding in plain sight that even people who carefully monitor their kidney health often miss. Sign 6. Chronic kidney strain. People hear that dehydration causes dry lips. They drink more water. The lips stay dry. They give up and tell themselves this is simply what aging feels like. What they have not been told is that kidneys working under chronic strain cannot filter moisture back into the body's tissues efficiently. The water you drink passes through without reaching the places that need it most, including the lips. Think of a buried irrigation pipe with small cracks running along its length. You pour water in at the top, almost none of it reaches the far edge of the garden. After 65, kidney function often declines by a small percentage each year. Many people carry reduced capacity without knowing it, because symptoms stay quiet for years before any threshold is crossed. Margaret was 72, a retired school teacher from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. She had come to me after years of dry lips that no balm could touch. What had been overlooked was that her blood pressure medications had been creating low-grade kidney stress, building steadily over time. After adjusting her fluid timing and supporting her mineral intake, her lip moisture improved by roughly 40% within 8 weeks. But then the change plateaued. She had made meaningful progress, and yet something was still missing. I will return to what we eventually added. Watch for this cluster: lips that stay dry despite drinking well, mild puffiness in the face first thing in the morning, and fatigue that arrives before noon. Drink most of your fluids before early afternoon and reduce intake in the hours before sleep. That sequence works with how the kidneys function rather than against them. But if kidney strain surprised you, the next one surprises people even more. Sign 5. Thyroid dysfunction. The thyroid sits at the front of the throat, about the size of a butterfly. It governs how quickly the body's cells work. When it slows, everything slows, including the oils and the moisture that keep the lips from drying. After 60, the thyroid becomes less efficient gradually. Many older adults spend years with borderline low thyroid function without a clear diagnosis, because the symptoms, dry lips, dry skin, persistent fatigue, and the mild weight changes, are attributed to aging rather than a system running too slowly. The elder healers of our village paid close attention to a specific quality in the lips when they suspected this condition. Not just dryness, but a slight thickening, a color tending toward pale. They called it the slow body sign, a body cooling itself before its time. Keep the neck warm in cool weather. Limit large amounts of raw cruciferous vegetables, like broccoli and cabbage. A small handful of Brazil nuts, few times each week, supports how the thyroid produces its hormones. The elder healers of Korama did not know the name selenium, but they understood that certain mountain seeds kept the body's rhythm steady through the long winter months. The thyroid does not work in isolation though. Sign 4 is the nutritional condition I see most quietly overlooked in people past 65, and its signs on the lips are unmistakable once you know what you are looking for. Sign 4. Iron deficiency anemia. Iron does not only carry oxygen through the blood, it maintains the small vessels that feed the lips their color and moisture. When iron falls low, those vessels carry less than they should. Think of a river running shallow. The banks begin to crack and thin because the flow underneath has dropped. After 60, the body absorbs iron from food less efficiently. Some common pain medications taken regularly for joint or muscle discomfort cause small amounts of blood loss from the stomach lining over time, quietly reducing iron stores over many months without anyone noticing. Harold was 68, a retired postal worker from Chattanooga, Tennessee. He had pale, chronically dry lips for nearly 3 years. What had been overlooked was that his daily low-dose aspirin, taken on his doctor's recommendation for heart health, had been causing minor stomach bleeding that quietly depleted his iron over many months. After addressing the underlying absorption issue with dietary changes and his physician's guidance, his iron improved and his lips recovered meaningful color within 12 weeks. But like Margaret, his improvement reached the ceiling. The dryness did not fully resolve. He was missing the same piece that Margaret had been missing. I will explain what that piece was. Pair iron-rich foods like lentils, dark leafy greens, and lean meats with a small amount of vitamin C at the same meal. That pairing substantially raises how much iron the body actually absorbs. Avoid black tea or coffee within 1 hour of these meals. Both interfere with iron uptake. After 60, this pairing is not optional. Single foods alone are rarely enough anymore. What I am sharing today is of value to you. Please subscribe so these teachings reach more older adults who are looking for them. It takes 2 seconds. Now let us continue. Sign 3. Sjogren's syndrome. This is an autoimmune condition affecting a significant portion of older adults, particularly women, and most people watching today have never heard its name. The immune system, rather than protecting the moisture-producing glands, begins working against them. The body turns against the very glands that produce saliva and moisture for the lips. The result is a dryness that no amount of water fully relieves, because the glands themselves have lost the ability to maintain that moisture. Water cannot replace what they are no longer making. The elder healers of our village called it the drying disease. They treated it with warming foods, fermented preparations, and specific daily practices that supported the body's internal balance. The old ones knew what the laboratories are now confirming. And here is where everything begins to connect. The immune system's tendency to misfire in this way is directly linked to the gut's condition. When beneficial organisms in the gut decline after 60, the immune system loses one of its most important regulators. These bacteria do not just support digestion, they tell the immune system when to activate and when to stand down. Without them, in sufficient numbers, the immune system stays activated longer than it should. The glands suffer, the surface follows. Notice if your eyes feel dry at the same time your lips do. That pattern is worth discussing with your physician. But we have not yet reached the sign that tells me the blood itself is under strain. Sign 2. Prediabetes and blood sugar imbalance. This is the signal that begins whispering long before any diagnosis arrives. Elevated blood sugar draws water out of the body's cells in a process called osmotic diuresis. The blood becomes denser than it should be, and the body tries to balance it by pulling moisture from wherever it can find, including the lips. Dry lips that worsen after a large morning meal are often not a coincidence. After 60, the body's ability to regulate blood sugar after meals becomes less efficient. Insulin sensitivity declines. And here is something most people are not told. The gut bacteria I described at the start of this video play a direct role in blood sugar regulation. Certain strains of beneficial organisms help the body manage the glucose response after eating. When those strains drop by 30 to 40% after 60, blood sugar balance becomes harder to maintain, even in people eating carefully. Barbara was 74, a retired bank teller from Boise, Idaho. She had experienced dry lips for 2 years and been told repeatedly to drink more water. What had been overlooked was that her fasting blood sugar had been creeping upward for nearly 3 years without crossing into the range that triggers a diagnosis. After shifting her morning meal, reducing refined carbohydrates, and adding a short walk after her largest meal each day, her fasting glucose improved noticeably over 4 months. Her lips improved, partially, but the dryness did not fully resolve. She, like Margaret and Harold, had hit a ceiling, the same missing piece. A short walk of 10 to 15 minutes after your largest meal each day meaningfully reduces the blood sugar rise that follows eating. The old healers prescribed movement after meals. The researchers are now putting numbers to why. Speak to your doctor before making any changes to a blood sugar management plan. And now we arrive at the one underneath all the others. Sign 1. Chronic systemic inflammation. I have watched this condition quietly diminish more lives and more independence than almost any other force in 60 years of practice. And it almost never announces itself clearly. It sends small signals instead. Dry lips are one of them. Systemic inflammation is the immune system running too hot for too long. In a young body, inflammation is a useful tool. It heals an injury. It fights an infection. And then it retreats. In the body past 60, the signal that says stop does not always arrive. The immune system stays activated at a low, steady level. Researchers now call this inflammaging, aging driven by a slow fire. This slow fire narrows the small vessels that carry moisture to the lips. It disrupts the hormones that regulate hydration. It exhausts the glands that produce saliva. And it sits underneath every other condition we have discussed today, quietly making each one harder to manage on its own. Walter was 71, a retired carpenter from Santa Fe, New Mexico. He came to me after 3 years of dry lips, persistent fatigue, and what he called a heaviness that no amount of sleep could touch. He would sit before his morning tea, hands resting on the table, looking out the window, and the day had not yet begun, but he was already tired. His inflammatory markers, checked after I encouraged him to ask for the test, were significantly elevated. We began the same dietary work I had started with Margaret, Harold, and Barbara, warming foods, the cooling and warming sequences of the traditional Kurama practice, and like theirs, his markers began to move. And then, for Walter, something different happened, because by that point, I had finally found the missing piece that all four of them had needed. Let me be direct with you now. Everything I have described today, the immune response, the moisture regulation, the blood sugar balance, the slow inflammatory fire, all of it happens inside a body, and that body is only as strong as the ground beneath it. The gut, after 60, you cannot simply eat better and expect the beneficial organisms to return in the numbers the body needs. The loss is too significant. The terrain has changed. The old village healers understood this. You cannot drop seeds into dry, empty ground and expect a healthy crop. The soil must be prepared, the water must be present, and the seeds must be the right kind. All three must work in partnership. What the body needs is a probiotic, a prebiotic to feed it, and postbiotics, the actual compounds the bacteria produce when they are well nourished, which are what rebuild the gut lining and regulate the immune system's temperature. A probiotic alone has nothing to feed on. Prebiotic fiber, without the right bacterial strains, produces little on its own, and without postbiotics, the gut lining cannot rebuild itself. One without the others is not enough. I spent 3 years looking for a formulation that addressed all three together. Not because I was looking for something to recommend. I was looking because Margaret, Harold, and Barbara had plateaued, because the dietary work and the lifestyle practices were carrying people most of the way. But the stubborn remaining gap, the part where the gut had lost too much to recover on its own, that gap was not closing. And I was not willing to tell people that 60% improvement was the ceiling. After reviewing many formulations and asking hard questions about each one, the product I kept returning to was a kombucha gummy called BoochBod. It contains lactospore and postbiotics, LM1004, two clinically studied strains chosen for their stability and their documented effects on gut health. It includes dandelion root, which the mountain healers of Kurama have used for generations to support the gut's terrain and its natural drainage. And it is a gummy, not a capsule. For those of us past 60 who have accumulated a collection of bottles, this matters more than it sounds. The best formula in the world does nothing if it sits on the shelf, forgotten. Consistency is what compounds. When I added BoochBod to Walter's program alongside the dietary work, the plateau broke. Over the following 5 months, his inflammatory markers improved by 31%. His energy shifted. He returned to his workshop 3 mornings a week. He told me, Master Okamura, I thought I was just getting old. I did not know the fire had a name, or that something could actually be done about it. Margaret, Harold, and Barbara showed similar patterns once we added the gut terrain work. The stubborn remaining gap, the percentage that dietary changes alone could not close, that is where the difference came from. The link is in the description below. BoochBod offers a 60-day guarantee. If you try it and do not find it helpful, you are not out anything. That is the only kind of recommendation I am willing to make to people I hope to serve well. Please speak to your physician before starting any supplement. 3 things I want to leave you with before we close. because they are the most common reasons people try hard and still hit a ceiling. First, treating the surface instead of the source. Lip balm brings comfort. It does not address the cause. When the signal goes quiet because you applied something to the surface, the deeper cause continues. The body is speaking. Do not silence it without listening first. Second, drinking more water without changing how. Plain water in large amounts without minerals can dilute the electrolytes the body needs to carry moisture to the tissues. Add a small pinch of natural salt to morning water. Include a mineral-rich broth in the afternoon. Third, waiting for a test to confirm what the body is already showing. Blood tests often catch conditions late. Kidney function can decline for years before standard markers clearly flag it. The lips change earlier. They are the body's first honest report. Do not wait for the paper to confirm what the face is already saying. My friend, these 7 signs are not an ending. They are an early map. And now you have it. Dry lips that no balm fully touches. Vitamin B depletion, drawing the corners tight. Kidney strain, blocking moisture from reaching the surface. A thyroid running too slowly. Iron levels falling too low to feed the small vessels. The body's own glands turning against themselves. Blood sugar pulling moisture from the cells to manage a growing internal demand. And underneath all of it, the slow fire sitting at the center of the body's aging. These are not random conditions. They share a root, and the gut is where that root lives. The body at 70, at 75, at 80 still carries the capacity to shift course. The old healers of Kurama built their entire practice on this truth. My grandfather built his life on it. It is never too late to listen to what the body is already telling you. The link is in the description below. BoochBod offers a 60-day guarantee. The risk is theirs, not yours. Look into it, speak with your physician, and decide for yourself. If this video has been of value to you, please subscribe so that these teachings find you before you have to go searching for them, and leave a comment telling me which of these 7 signs surprised you most. I read every comment on this channel, and I answer when I am able. Until next time, dear friend, take good care of that body. It has carried you a long way, and it still has much farther to go.